This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
Happy Sunday evening and welcome to another edition of the Voice of the Land here on the Big Play Network and, of course, partnered with LPV Productions. We, of course, are brought to you by Vector Technical, the right person, the right job, the first time, and DP Construction LLC. Reach out to them for all your concrete construction needs. That is DP Construction LLC. Reach out to our buddy Tyler LaFrada directly by email, tylerlafrada@gmail.com. That is tylerlafrada@gmail.com, or hit him up for a quote by phone at 330-217-4999. That is 330-217-4999. We thank Vector Technical and DP Construction LLC. What's going on, everybody? I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold, and I am joined, as always, this evening by our producer extraordinaire behind that proverbial glass. You never see him. He doesn't want you to see him, Peter Tellup. And usually I introduce my brother across the table, Nick Paulus, but he is on assignment tonight, so we have a special guest host returning to the show. He's guest hosted with us before. Always positive, Jay. APJ, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Of course. Hurting a little bit tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, I had a softball game, pulled a couple muscles, but hanging in there.
That's what happens as the years go on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's why I'm going to start doing yoga so I don't have to pull so many muscles that try to extend my years of playing.
But you had a big day at the plate, right?
5 for 6, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, and a single.
There you go.
Not too bad.
There you go. Batting around a little bit. I hear the first game, went pretty well. Just
and then I think we used all our energy in that first game.
Yeah, you weren't the only one that got hurt, were you?
No, we had about 4 injuries today.
Okay. Well, you got big shoes to fill over there in that seat. You ready?
I mean, I think I could do it.
Okay. Do we know where? We said Nick's on assignment, so
I think he's grounded. I'm pretty sure he's grounded.
Did something happen?
A certain facial haircut, and it might have got him in trouble.
Oh. Yeah.
These are just rumors, nothing, for sure.
Oh, well, I thought I saw him with a different look on Twitter yesterday, but I couldn't tell if that was really him or not. So,
that was not a kung fu fighter you saw. That was Nick.
Oh, that was Nick. Okay.
Looked much younger.
Yeah. Well, it also didn't look like a kung fu fighter either.
No, I didn't say he did.
But of course, he's actually with his wife. It is her graduation day, so we do want to congratulate Kelly Paulus, who, of course, comes in sometimes she's been sitting in the back, off to the side. She works on her schoolwork all the time. She takes the time up here sometimes. She's been putting in all the work. It is a well-earned graduation day for you, Kelly, and your bum of a husband. Sorry, Paulus, I gotta bust your chops a little bit, but congratulations to Kelly on her graduation this evening, and a congratulations to the Cleveland Crunch, who are a friend of show, proud, I guess, partnered with the show now.
Something like that.
It's kind of like cross-platform. Been doing the play-by-play for them the last few games, and of course, Peter, NEO Sports Network, LPV Productions, the proud broadcasting partner with those guys over there. It was a big night.
That was an exciting game. I didn't know. I'm not a huge soccer fan. But I enjoy soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrible soccer player. We talked about this on the show. But man, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And that was an exciting game. It really was. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to, I guess luckily, I'm air quoting, you can't see me.
Mm-hmm.
We only had the one camera really to get the shot because unfortunately the setup is just not conducive to get good shots. But I'm trying to make sure everything's working on the stream and everything's going well. But I was getting into the game, man. It was really exciting.
It was intense.
It wasn't expect the ending. Woo.
And that intimate atmosphere, though, I think really allows you to feel the energy in the arena. But I know they want to get a bigger facility, and I think they can because they had to jump into the second division. So it's basically, if you look at England, there's the Premier League, and then you get relegated. If you're one of the bottom 3 teams out of 20, you get sent down to the next level, or like basically, I guess what AAA would be for baseball.
So you can pop up if you're you're at the top.
If you win like the playoff in the championship division, so it's Premier League, and then there's the championship league. If you win that, then you bump up. You're one of the top 3 teams in that league, then get to be bumped up because they always have 20 teams in the Premier League.
Okay.
So basically the Crunch are in that championship league of major arena soccer right now. And then, but the way that they're playing and the talent that they have and all this local Northeast Ohio talent. I mean, you look at the high schools that these guys are from: Wycliffe, Menor, Eastlake North. I think I saw maybe Vermilion on the list and Westlake. Like, so all around the surrounding areas of Northeast Ohio, that's how big soccer is, but it's not big enough for people to really recognize how big it is. Jay, you into soccer at all? You watch any Crunch games, Crew games? You tune in last night?
No.
Oh, of course not. You know,
I'm trying to become a big Crew fan, so you're gonna have to teach me a thing or two about soccer.
I got you.
But
Don't worry.
hey, if Emeka got into it and he looks pretty passionate, I think I can get into it.
Yeah, it really what it is the people that start getting into it that haven't been for a while, it's FIFA. It's video games. And video games have been kind of the biggest element to get people into soccer.
See, I watch hockey, so I think I can get into it where there's not a lot of scoring. But the beauty of that is like it's real intense because I'll watch the World Cup here and there. And when they get close, man, you're like on the edge of your seat, like, come on. And then they score. Right. It is like an explosion of emotion every time they score.
Right, because it's up and down and it's so confined. It's in a smaller space than you kind of. It feels a lot smaller than it is. A lot of these hockey rinks are in basketball arenas and they're kind of taking up that space where the floor would be anyways. But it still feels so confined and in such a small space, and these guys are going up and down quickly.
It's very fast paced. I mean, I've watched soccer on occasion on television, outdoor, and it's that the field just seems so huge. There's so much real estate to cover. I mean, because what's the normal dimension of Major League Soccer, like outdoor?
It's usually
it's wider. It's bigger than football.
Yeah, it's 120 by 70. I think it is.
Okay.
It's at least like 120 yards long, and then
so
only 70 yards.
It takes up like a whole football field basically, because a football field's 100 plus 20 on each, 10 on each end.
Yeah.
So
because when you like Wycliffe, they're getting turf next year.
Okay.
But we've always had grass in Wycliffe on the high school field, and where the lines are drawn, basically it's drawn the length of the entire football field, but it extends further out. So it's wider than a football field, but it's basically as long. It just depends on kind of how you have to get the proper dimensions in. Not every school in this area has the proper dimensions.
Yeah.
They'll get that. The schools with turf, they'll have that kind of dimension.
I think that small field in the arena is just, it was really action packed. It was way more action than I expected.
So would you compare it like how the NFL field is to the arena football field?
Actually, Jacob and I were talking about that. I said it felt much more like an arena football, which, hey, say what you will about arena football. That was kind of fun to watch. I mean, it was
wide receivers getting a head start. It's kind of like
playing off the net, stuff like that. It was kind of crazy, but it was very fast paced. I enjoyed it a lot. So
it was an honor for me to be behind the microphone. And of course, thank you to you, Peter, your son, Jacob, who was on camera, Jim Wagner, who's with you in Edinio Sports Network and LPV Productions on camera last night as well. It was a true honor for me, for Lucci and Eric, president and vice president of the Crunch, to bring me on, have me fill in for Munch, calling those games, and to call their playoff clinching berth. First time Crunch in the playoffs in over 20 years. Since they kind of disbanded back in the early 2000s. It was a emotional moment because I almost teared up on the broadcast last night, because that's the Crunch is what got me into soccer. I have more bobbleheads from the Crunch than I think the other teams combined, because there was always giveaways. I had a Vuvuzela before Vuvuzelas were cool in 2010 at that World Cup, and I still have that one to this day because I'll never get rid of that. So. It was a true honor. I have a couple high school teammates that play for the team. There's a lot of Wycliffe infusion in the Crunch too. So it has that community atmosphere to me. But congrats to the Crunch on clinching the playoffs last night. They will play July 17th and 18th in Wichita, Kansas for the playoffs, but they still have a couple games, regular season games on the road in Kansas. So they'll kind of get used to the atmosphere out there as well before they hit the playoff scene that weekend of the 17th and 18th of July. So good luck to the Crunch moving forward. Big fans of them here on the Voice of the Land, big supporters of them. And I'm sure we'll get some of them on in the offseason as well to talk about kind of what happened this season and what will happen in the fall and winter season coming up. But we have one team that's playing really well. There's a couple other teams in this town that we need to kind of get to tonight that have not been playing very well. Before we do that, I just want to let everybody know, of course, you can follow us at VTL_pod on Twitter. Find the audio all the time. Google, Spotify, Apple. You can always follow Jay. You can see his Twitter handle underneath his name as he pops up at Always Positive Jay, myself at Kevin7, and of course, LPV Productions on all social media sites. Voice of Land, we have our Facebook page. Make sure you follow Big Play on all social media sites as well. And anytime you want to have those conversations on social media, hit us up. We had some conversations actually this week, so we'll get into all that. Jay, before we hit a break, from one team that's made the playoffs to a team that has a record that suggests they're on pace for a playoff berth, potentially a wild card berth, but still don't know who they are. And I'm going to keep saying it. Their theme song is The Who's. Who are you? Who? Who are they to you? Who are the Indians?
Ignore the Twitter handle right now. They're Fugazi.
Oh, boy.
Hate to say it. Your record does not show who this team really is. They do not have the bats. And with Framel going down, you can make the playoffs. You're just not going to go anywhere. You just don't have the batting to do it.
Yeah, Framel out 5 to 7 weeks. It's an internal oblique strain. So you see, these guys in their swing, sometimes they kind of hold their side and those oblique strains, and sometimes they can be a couple weeks, but that is a deep, deep injury. And you could just tell the way he kind of came up lame in that moment. Something it wasn't right. And it wasn't going to be right for a while. And now you got to bank on a guy like Owen Miller. I know he went 0 for 5 today. He's just up from Columbus from last night. And, he had his first hitless night for the Clippers last night. So, probably not the best way to debut, but he's going to hit. It's just, you hope to bring up a guy like Owen Miller, Nolan Jones, some of those guys down there with Columbus. You hope to bring them up to add to this lineup and, kind of hope that they can have an impact more so than some of the guys that are in this lineup that you can't rely on at all. And yet we have to rely on Owen Miller now to be that DH and hope to give us something similar to what Framel was doing. And that's a lot of pressure on him. I'm not saying he's not capable of it, but fans can't get on Owen Miller if it takes him a little bit to adjust to the major league game. I heard Hammy on the call today, and he was talking about how in that at bat for Cesar Hernandez in the bottom of the ninth, he wanted to swing at a down and in slider or changeup that was out of the zone, and it starts in the zone and curls out. He wanted to swing. He was able to take that pitch, get to 3-2, and ends up drawing the walk because he's a major league hitter and knows major league pitchers have perfected that pitch. You know who haven't seen that down in the minor leagues? Minor leaguers. And to have that in your first and have that kind of pressure on you in your first day, that's a tough spot to come up in, unfortunately. But I actually like Owen Miller's game, and I think he's going to hit. He's too good of a hitter not to hit at this level.
When you call up guys, most of the time they're not going to come up and do too well.
No.
Very rarely. I mean, yeah, they can get lucky. Maybe this guy comes up, starts batting 350, and puts a spark into this thing. Like, anything can happen. Baseball is like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you can't be relying on these guys. When you got a pitching staff like that, they should have invested in hitting in the offseason. They
should have. I mean, you don't know what the message is. Is it that we're going to compete for AL Central titles and for the playoffs and World Series titles? Or are we going to break it all down to try to build up the farm system that is being built up pretty well right now? There is some pretty good talent in our minor league system. Are you going all the way back down to that, like mid-market, small market teams do? Are you going back down to that? The message is unclear. That's the same thing with the Cavs. What was the message? You had these veterans here with young guys. You said you wanted to compete. Now you're back where you started. You're in the lottery. The Indians, they have a winning record right now, but it's a minor league based team that, like you said, their record doesn't really present who they truly are.
They've been no hit twice.
And with the Twins are the worst team in baseball. It looked exactly opposite this weekend, and that's unacceptable. But we'll get into that.
Did we jumpstart the Twins like we did the Yankees?
Because
the White Sox are going to catch fire soon.
That's a good question, and we will get to that after a break. But we do have to get to our first break of the evening for a message from our sponsor, Vector Technical. We'll be back to talk a little bit more about baseball, and I guess we got to look at the Cavs too, because there's not a whole lot going on. We got to figure out, can the Cavs somehow compete, and maybe would a play-in game, would that have helped them this season? We'll talk about all that and more on the other side of this break here on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network.
Whether you're looking to hire new talent or start a new career, Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that has helped thousands of job seekers advance in their career with reputable partners throughout Northeastern Ohio. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. With an above-average hire-in rate of 1 in 4 candidates, Vector works hard to connect the right person with the right opportunity the first time. Vector Technical hires for skilled manufacturing and light industrial work and is sure to have a career that you've been looking for. To learn more, visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com.
Welcome back inside the Voice Land here on the Big Play Network. Kevin Arnold alongside our guest host tonight, always Positive Jay, and of course Peter Tellep. And we went to break kind of talking about the Indians and the weekend series that they had against the Twins. And you brought up a good question, Jay. So I'll let you answer your own question to start. Did the Indians just jumpstart the Twins, who expected to be a lot better than this, and their bullpen has been awful, exactly the opposite of how the Indians has been? And you can't really get on Karinchak for today because everybody's human and he's going to have a bad outing. It just so happened in the wrong spot to happen. But
I'm not going to get on Karinchak. He's been excellent all year.
But did they just jumpstart the Twins like the Indians helped jumpstart the Yankees?
I mean, they got a formidable offense there. And do we just light a fire underneath them? I hope not. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Would not be surprised.
I mean, the Yankees have been on a tear since that point. I didn't see if they were able to beat the White Sox today, but the
White Sox, I think, came back and won.
Did they really?
Which is not good for us.
No, because I think we had gotten it down to 2 games after last night, and now that would go to 3 games today. Peter's will take a look at that for us, but I know listening to the Indians broadcast, they said that the Twins hit a pinch hit home run in the top of the 9th. And they tied it up. Did they get the win?
The Yankees won it 5-4.
Oh, they did.
Okay.
Yep.
So you stay even par. You could have gained ground today. You don't. I guess the positive way to look at it, if no pun intended, but if you don't mind, I'll take that word for right now. The positive way to look at it is you don't lose ground, but you can't go losing games to the Twins. You can't lose to the worst team in your division, let alone the worst team in baseball, and give them that sort of energy.
This seems so Indians to me, though. I mean,
I know.
How many times in the past have the Indians been towards at the top of the AL Central? They go into freaking Kansas City, who has like 0 wins, and get swept.
Right.
I mean,
They do it when the attendance is always up too.
Yeah.
They sold out Friday. What are they? 9-0 or something.
Yeah, and it's one of those things.
Oh, they don't ever come to the game. Like every time we come to the game, you guys don't show up.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, they just play down? Do they play to the level of their opponent? And I felt like a lot of times the Indians do. Like not just this year. I mean, just in general, I think they have a habit of playing to their opponent's level.
Yeah.
They play tough teams and they'll play them great. They play crappy teams and they lose to them. And it's
it's frustrating and it's unacceptable.
Thank God for Detroit.
Oh. We're not Detroit.
It's always a positive when you're not Detroit.
But
see, with baseball, I mean, hitting's down all around, And I think it has to do with that launch angle and how they're swinging. And pitchers have adjusted.
I mean, you're swinging for the fence or nothing.
Yeah.
That's what baseball is now. You're swinging for the fence, and especially if you're down, guys are coming up to the plate trying to swing for the fence, or else they're not getting anything. You're not. What the Indians did in the ninth inning to at least tie it up, they played small ball. You don't see that very often. When was the last time you saw a guy, you personally watching baseball, did you see a guy lay down a bunt successfully?
They did it today.
I know, but
That was
before Jordan Luplow, like when's the last time you saw that?
I feel like I've seen it relatively recently, but it doesn't happen often.
No.
But I got a question for both of you. I mean, I love seeing a home run. They're exciting.
Yeah.
But what's more exciting, though? A home run or when you've got that mad scramble, the base hit, through the gap, and the guys are running their butts off, trying to score, trying not to get thrown out of the base. Those close calls at the base.
Yeah.
Those close calls at home plate.
Yeah.
Those I think are more exciting than the home run ball.
I think a triple is the most exciting hit in baseball.
Oh, that's because you're on the edge of your seat, right?
And when you're there, you've still got the pressure on that pitcher when you're at third. Like a triple is just an amazing hit.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite hit in baseball.
Well, I think pitchers easily shake off a solo home run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, solo home run. But you're right. I think a triple. You're right. Now you got that runner there. There's that pressure, and that affects all the next batters. All those next sequences.
It's keeping the train rolling. It's getting a rally going. Matt and Rick were talking about that in the bottom of the 10th. Usually when you're down and you're in extra innings, you have to try to generate a rally. You don't, and you're down 3 or more, you don't feel it because you got to jumpstart it. The first guy to come up has got to jumpstart something to have some sort of energy building that clubhouse. Well, now you got the guy on second, so that kind of helps. But, then you got guys come up to the plate still trying to launch the home run. If the first guy that comes up launches a home run, now you clear the bases, you're still down 1. Now the rest of the guys are trying to come up, trying to tie the game. Instead of, can you get the guy at second home, which the Indians are terrible with runners in scoring position. I think they were 0 for 10 today, which is unacceptable. And these guys are they're trying to swing for the fence instead of, let me see if we can get a train rolling here. We already got a guy at second. Let's see if we can get a hit, get him over. Let's get him in, and then let's find the rally. But these guys come up and
what era of baseball were the Indians' offense just prolific? The 90s.
Yeah.
You go through their lineups and you look at their averages: 350, 325, 300, 315, 280 is like a low batting average. Go through this lineup now. It's like 215, 117, 200.
You're lucky to see
253. 280, I think, is our highest average. I'm like, come on, guys. I understand, like you said, the home run ball or chicks dig the long ball and all that good stuff. But when you're just getting base hit after base hit, doubles, singles, then you get more at bats. You get more home runs.
It's that momentum. I think it builds the
rhythm.
excitement.
That's excitement.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a guy walk and then a home run, then just slowly trot around the bases. No, that's kind of boring to me, honestly.
I mean, you got to get each individual in a rhythm. And once one guy gets in a rhythm, then that kind of helps the guy next to him get in a rhythm. And it builds energy. It builds momentum. And that's how you get things together. People can argue all they want that this lineup isn't good enough to be a major league type lineup or hit for average or anything like that. But when you're not a home run hitting lineup or, this explosive offense where you have pressure on the pitcher at all times because you got a guy like Stanton that's coming up, then you got Judge coming up, like these big hitting and big athletes coming up that can just take you deep every single time they come up. If you can do the little things, the ninth inning showed this team can do the little things. You can still win that way. It's not ancient. You can still win that way. Is it pretty? Is it what people come to see all the time? No, but I want my baseball team to be good, or I want my baseball team to tell me, hey, we're at a point. We can't get all, some big names in here to continue this train. The window, unfortunately, is closed. We need to really rebuild and get the stables full down in the minor leagues so that we have quality guys that then we can supplement with a big name in a couple years as they come up and get big league experience. Or we're going to bring a couple guys in that are major league hitters. I wasn't looking for Hall of Famer. I wasn't looking for an all-star or perennial all-star. I was looking for major league professional hitters in our outfield or something at first base even to supplement and lengthen this lineup, because you're telling us you're still going to compete. But the lineup and the money that is there does not coincide. That is why I get frustrated with the Dolans. That's why I get frustrated with this team. I understand the business side of baseball, but when the business side says one thing and you got your front office, because you won't come out and say anything, you won't come out and change the name when all these names are being floated out there. You won't come out here and talk about where this team is actually at and why you have to cut payroll. You won't explain it. And you have Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff come out and be the scapegoat for it. And they're coming out saying
Nothing.
They're saying a lot to say nothing. But they're still presenting it as if they feel like there is a window there to compete, or at least give themselves a chance to compete and allow their pitching to get to the playoffs and try to take them farther. They don't match up. And it's frustrating as a fan to see series like this. Yeah, it's baseball. Teams are going to win games. Even bad teams are going to win games. And I was talking with Tyler before the show about that. But it's still unacceptable. I don't accept 2016 because the players didn't get it done. It was a great run, but you didn't get it done, so that's not good enough. This year, you lose to the Twins, who are the worst team in baseball. At home, 2 out of 3 games. They may get 1. They shouldn't get 2 here. And you got walloped in game 1, 10-0, when fans just came out because COVID is starting to be lifted a little bit. People can go out, not have to wear a mask, and they're trying to bring energy to the team, and they fall flat in their face like they do every single time. It's frustrating. I don't accept it. I want better.
So how do you feel about Frankie? I mean, because we talked a lot about, you know, the Dolan should put the cash out for him, and he's, I think, batting, I think they said 193, I heard, is his
193, 194, something like that.
So, I mean,
he's got to figure himself out.
But
because he is he's
such a crapshoot. I mean, it's such a crapshoot. These guys have great years, and then, you know, I don't know, they sign a contract and downhill. It seems a lot of times.
I mean, does he look like worth the contract that he got, or the contract that fans were wanting the Indians to sign him to, and some being unrealistic about how much money Indians could actually dole out? There's some fans that think that we have a bunch of money, others that don't think we have, you know, any money at all, and agree with the Dolans because they don't have any money at all. That's not true, because they're like the 5th richest owners in all of baseball.
It's if you ain't got no money and you're really struggling,
you shouldn't own a team.
Why don't you stand up to baseball and say something?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know if you guys realize this, but it's an unfair advantage for certain cities just because their population's larger than mine. So you get to spend more money. Like, stand up and for your team. If you're not going to spend money, fight for us. We would appreciate it.
Do something, because we're
the farm club for the MLB. And I'm so sick of it, dude. It drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
It is. Well, and there's the thing, like you said, there's more mid to small market teams out there than there are large market teams. So, because, you know, if you want parity, New York, you know, a lot of the California teams, they're going to fight against it because they don't want to give up their money.
Yeah.
They don't want to spread it around. But there's a lot more
sharing.
There's a lot more Cleveland. I mean, Detroit, even Chicago with the 2
Kansas
teams.
City.
I mean, the entire AL Central and NL Central are mid-market teams. I don't know. How to fix baseball and the money finances overall, that's Pandora's box. I'm not willing to open that tonight. I just know that something's got to change with this team. Either be honest about what's going on with this team, or put out the product, and the players got to execute to do what they said that they're going to do, and that's compete. I guess on the other side of this break, we need to talk about another team that doesn't really put their message out, from one owner who doesn't spend at all to an owner that maybe spends too much and is naive on what actually needs to happen to become a good basketball team. We'll talk about that on the other side. But during this break, you want some Voice of the Land gear? Well, we'll tell you how during this break. You're watching the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network.
Are you struggling to hire the right talent or maybe even find the right career? Vector Technical makes it easy. Since 1992, Vector has provided Ohio employers with a reliable process for hiring and have helped thousands of job seekers advance in their careers. Vector Technical is more than just a temp agency. We invest time to get to know each client and candidate personally. Vector places people in job opportunities that they are truly excited about. Interested in learning more? Visit our website at www.vectortechnicalinc.com to see a full list of our current job opportunities and to find out what Vector Technical can offer you.
Get your gear at voiceoftheland.com/shop.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Land here on the Big Play Network. We've been talking a lot about the Indians and good conversation about what needs to happen or what this team is actually doing. Maybe trying to figure out who they are, but I don't know that we still do. So I'm just going to keep playing Who Are You in my head for the entire baseball season until I maybe figure out who they actually are. And if I do, you'll be the first ones to know when you tune in to the Voice of the Land. If you have comments on the Indians, the Cavs, even the Browns, if you have questions about the Browns, we'll get to them here in just a few moments. Reach out to us at VTL_pod, at Kevin and 7, at Always Positive J, as APJ is joining us as a guest host tonight, and at LPV Productions for Peter and LPV Productions, of course. And thank you to our sponsors, Vector Technical, DP Construction LLC. And, you know, if you saw some gear for the Voice of the Land you liked, hit up our shop, voiceoftheland.com, and hit the link for the shop there on the homepage. But we do need to talk about the Cavs. I guess before we do that, there are a couple comments that we've kind of had. Dave is Big Play Dave. He's excited that you're here, man.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Dave.
I mean, hey, you're the one I called. Probably next is going to be Jared from Illegal Hand to the Face. Of course, good dude. Shout out to those guys. We'll try to get him on at some point because always want to talk food, and
he loves to talk food.
He will talk food. He'll talk basketball. I have
a legendary talk about bacon that I could went on for a half hour with them the one day.
So hit up Illegal Ham to the Face on Twitter at Ham Illegal, and of course find their podcast on all the major podcast platforms, just like Voice of the Land. And I'm not sure if Paulus is grounded or not. I don't understand his comments. It says,
yeah, he's pretty much grounded. He's saying,
okay, all right. Well, I was trying to give him credit that it was her graduation, and we're really happy for Kelly because. Peter, she comes in all the time and she's working on that stuff diligently. She's working long hours in the hospitals and stuff. She was there at the forefront with COVID too, while she's still going to school. I mean,
and she puts up with Nick.
That's the biggest accomplishment.
Well, Nick will agree with me.
Is there a diploma we can give her for that? For like the degree in dealing with Nick?
She's probably upset because now my mic's buzzing out again.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
we'll have to get that.
She's probably upset that all of her pictures from graduation with him is going to have that.
Oh, that's right.
He might be grounded next week.
He might be. Well, guess probably should have thought about that before you. He did get a response from Randy Dobnak, the pitcher from part
of the business, man. He's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, radio bits, man. At some point, maybe I'll be there. Maybe I'll be doing some bits.
You'll get there.
Well, one of these days. Just got to keep working at it. But a team that's really got to keep working at it because they are nowhere close to where they need to be. The Cleveland Cavaliers. And they are back in the lottery, only winning 22 games. Anybody that bet the over, they just snuck in there to win that bet. But, I mean, Jay, how does this team get better? Is there a guy in this draft that they can get, or the play-in tournament just happened? Do you think something like that is more impactful for a team to really get some playoff experience to maybe, even if they lose that game, to really jumpstart a rebuild? Do you think it's more impactful from the draft perspective or the play-in perspective now to rebuild in the NBA?
Oh, it's the draft. I mean, it's the play-in is pretty much 1 or 2 games. It's going to help, and you're going to it helped Phoenix a lot last year, but they were ready to take that next step. I actually don't think the Cavs are that far off becoming contenders once again. The growth of Garland, I really like this year. I'd like to see Colin Sexton continue to grow a little more. Isaac Okoro, if he can make a jump like Garland did and Sexton did, you got 3 really good players right there. That nice little foundation. But you need a superstar. And like you said, the draft has at least one every single year. If you get lucky, Cade Cunningham, is it Mobley?
Yeah, Ethan Mobley, I think it is. Him and his brother at USC. I'm not sure if both of them entered because one was a senior, one was a sophomore, but I think it's Ethan Mobley.
He's the taller guy that shoots.
They're
comparing him like Durant, I think.
Yeah.
Hard. I wouldn't compare him to Durant, but
yeah,
I'd like to see a guy like that. You never know. Like he comes in and he's just an electric player. That team can turn around like that. And unfortunately, when you're the Cavs, you're not going to be able to get free agents and lure them in like LA and New York. But you can basketball, one player can truly change a whole culture of a team and help you win.
That's the beauty of basketball.
There's only 5 players on the court.
There are only 5 players, and it's really positionless. So, point guard isn't what point guard used to be.
Point guard could be shooting guard, point guard. It's the same thing almost now.
I mean, people are talking about Curry and the Warriors. I mean, they got beat twice in the play-in tournament, so they lost out on their 8th seed. They started as the 8th seed, and they get knocked out of the playoffs because 7 plays 8 for the 7th seed, and then the loser of that one plays the winner of the 9-10, and the winner of that gets the 8th seed. Well,
I don't think anyone in Cleveland was upset about the Warriors.
No, I wasn't either.
I was kind of enjoying it.
But people talk about him being like a top 3 point guard, maybe even all time. But he's not what a traditional point guard is. Like I would talk about
Chris Paul is a traditional point guard.
Chris Paul is still like the old school point guard, like actually a number 1. But Curry is really a shooting guard playing point guard, but he can still play make for others. LeBron is a point guard. He's a point forward and has been his whole career. Luka Doncic plays point guard basically for
Zion Williams is doing it now.
Yeah. These guys are bringing the ball up the court. Then they'll play off the ball. You get another guard that has some handle, get them off the ball. Sometimes you go small and maybe a guy like Doncic, who's, I think 6'6", 6'7", he can still get down there in the post, play small, spread you out, and have those lanes to drive through too. So there is no defined positions. The Cavs have really gone like almost traditional guard heavy, but more so shooting guard heavy. And they started to figure things out. And I think that's why you have a little bit of faith that they're not as far off as people may think. Colin Sexton can play. Darius Garland can play. Jared Allen is that big man that you need, a young big man that you need.
Larry Nance going down really hurt them, I think. I think he's the true leader of that team.
So that's the biggest thing with this Cavs team. You got to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate when a guy gets hurt. But
now, do you think they were kind of holding him out longer? Kind of like, remember when Kyrie was younger and
Kevin Love,
his little injuries kind of lasted longer, so we get a higher draft pick.
Either they were, or Kevin Love himself was. Like, he was definitely being held out longer than a normal guy would. Larry Nance, I think I still saw a cast on his hand at the end of the year. But if you're deciding that, hey, the season's not going the way we want to, and we're going to do the NBA style tank, we just don't have enough talent to compete on the floor, then.
Like, if they were pushing to make that little playoff seed there, don't you think maybe those guys could have rushed a little?
I think they could have. Honestly, I think
the whole Drummond thing tells me they weren't trying to win.
Yeah, that was a messed up situation. And I don't know that he's necessarily going to help the Lakers either, because he's been on bad basketball teams, Detroit and Cleveland. And I saw things in the Suns game today from Drummond that I saw here and you saw in Detroit that ended up on Shaqtin' a Fool. Like, he's trying to dribble up the court. He's trying to have all these like crossover moves in the paint. Like, just one move, back a guy down, turn, and, dominate
Even though
the post.
It's so bad. I love watching the big man come down the court.
Right. But there's big men now that in this positionless basketball, they actually have handles. The
Oh,
ones
yeah.
that don't, that are traditional big men like Drummond, do what you do best. Get on the boards, go in the post, let them feed you. Allow Davis to work on the outside. Davis had a terrible game today. Chris Paul, hopefully he's okay. He went down with a shoulder injury. LeBron then got boxed out by Paul, and he goes down with a shoulder injury. But I mean,
it looked like the end of my softball game. Everyone's dropping like flies out there.
Paul had nothing. Paul had nothing left at the end of that game.
He gets injured in the playoffs every time, and that's his story, man. He's such an amazing player, but
He is.
when it comes to the playoffs, he just gets these injuries.
Yeah.
And you hate it because he's such a great player and such a good guy.
Because he keeps going. Like he's nonstop. Yeah, he's getting up there in years in the NBA, but I believe the play where he got hurt, I was listening to that more.
He was his own player.
Yeah. And he's trying to go up in the air and you coming down on it.
Didn't even look serious. But he has the worst luck I've ever seen.
The LeBron one didn't look serious. And now sometimes with LeBron, I will admit I'm a LeBron fan, but he can flop a little bit on the floor.
I think he took a page out of the old Jim Brown, limping back to the huddle and then take off for 80 yards for a touchdown.
But I mean, looking at him and the way they were working on him, like something happened. And I don't know that he's right from that high ankle sprain. High ankle sprains are not easy to come back from.
No.
I think, unfortunately, Father Time might start catching up with LeBron. Not this year, because I don't think people are overreacting that the Lakers are done. They're not done in this series, guys.
No.
They lost the first game. I know
LeBron's lost so many first games in series.
I know that it happened in the bubble, so they weren't going against an adverse crowd in the bubble, but they lost the first game of almost every series last year, and then they won in 5. They won 4 straight. So it didn't even look like they were challenged at all. Davis has got to play better. Davis is the key. LeBron is starting to kind of go to the background. He's playing that IQ basketball game, and Davis is the main piece there in LA. And LeBron's trying to make sure he's the main piece. It always ends up going to LeBron, and
he seems so passive. Like he's just got to impose his will. He's a great player.
Either LeBron's got to impose his will, or Davis has got to play better and allow LeBron to kind of get into the game. That's the way he's always been, though. He's been a pass-first guy, and yet he's over 35,000 points by next season. By the end of next season, he's going to be a 30,000, 10,000, 10,000 player. 30,000 plus points, 10,000 plus assists, 10,000 plus rebounds.
He's all right.
The dude's okay.
He's hanging around.
He might make a Hall of Fame or something in the future.
Maybe.
But he's not here anymore. We don't have that guy.
No, we don't.
But you mentioned who they're playing against, the Suns. They played in the play-in tournament diversion in the bubble. They were able to add Chris Paul, add a couple pieces. James Jones is probably going to be executive of the year. And that gave them experience, though, to come together as a team and understand what the moment looks like. I think that helped them. I think the play-in tournament can actually help teams in their rebuild process if they can get to that and not stay stuck down there in NBA purgatory. I like the play-in tournament, actually. I was kind of like, let me see how this goes now that they're actually in arenas and there's fans entering arenas, and you got actual kind of crowd noise that you don't have to generate or manufacture. But I think it can actually help. If the Cavs don't get a top 5 pick in that lottery, we might be on the same.
You might need the top 3 or get lucky with whoever you get in.
I've heard the top 5 are legit prospects. I'll have to look into them a little bit more, and we'll have more draft conversations later. We first got to have the lottery, and I don't even know when that is at this point because everything's thrown off now that they started later, and finals aren't until July. So it might have the lottery in June, and then the draft will be after that. But, I mean, there's one guy that I like outside of Cade Cunningham, but it's another guard. It's Jalen Suggs. I actually like him coming out of Gonzaga. I think he has something like an it factor about him, but he's also coming from Gonzaga. That's a basketball powerhouse. Some people will say that that's, they're not playing high level competition all the time, and they didn't end up winning the NCAA championship. It's
how tall is he? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, not off the top of my head. I think 6'3", 6'4". So, But I like Jalen Suggs. I like Cade Cunningham. I like the Mobley kid. Saw a little bit of USC play. But at some point, you're going to need to get big time. Lights are coming on brighter moments for these young guys if you really think that they're your core and they're the future. We can't continue to be naive and think, oh, just because LeBron left, we can do it right this time. Stop thinking about LeBron is gone and we're going to prove you wrong that the Cavs can be a good organization without LeBron. Look at what it takes to become a good organization and have an actual culture defined like the Browns do. Build a culture and an accountability system down there at the Cleveland Clinic Courts in Independence, Ohio, and up here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Build a culture, build an accountability system that actually leads a young core into moments where they can gain experience and allow their it factors that they possess to either come out or prove that they don't have it like you think they do. That is what the Cavs really need to do. What are the answers to that? We'll talk about that more moving forward with this show, but we're also not paid to make those decisions. It comes down to Kobe Altman if he sticks around, and Dan Gilbert allowing basketball guys to make basketball moves. Like Jimmy Haslam is now allowed. Football people make football moves with other information feeding it in instead of thinking they're smarter than everybody else. And I think the Cavs are taking on that we're smarter than everybody else mentality rather than let's just do basketball things for basketball purpose. That'll lead us in to our last break of the night, though. On the other side, we will touch on, maybe try to answer the conundrum that is, what is Brown's Twitter? And we mentioned LeBron will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Are there people that aren't in a Hall of Fame in professional sports or even amateur athletics that should be? We'll answer all those questions and more on the other side of this final break here on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network.
Are you looking for a career in manufacturing? Vector Technical has you covered. Vector Technical is a 28-year-old staffing firm that is partnered with some of the biggest and the best companies throughout Northeastern Ohio. The recruiters at Vector Technical will coach you through the entire job process and will help you land an opportunity that you are truly excited about. Vector does not add any additional fees and offers benefits as well as free online skills training through Penn Foster. To learn more, visit www.vectortechnicalinc.com and make sure to check out our job board to see a full list of our current opportunities and apply.
Welcome back to the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network. And we've been spending most of the show talking about Indians, Cavs, and I guess the downside of sports right now in the Cleveland sports scene. I got a question for our special guest host tonight, who is always Positive Jay. And of course, we are joined by our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tillip, tonight. But Jay, I got a quick question for you before we get into our Hall of Fame question to end the show. Are you able to explain Brown's Twitter to me? Because I don't understand why everybody wants to fight about whether we need to get rid of good players we already have for other good players to become available. Every single time another good player is rumored to be on the trade block or needs to be traded or becomes a free agent, Browns fans try to find a way to get him here and try to ruin what some guys that have already been here, like Jarvis Landry, bless him, the culture starter, trying to get those guys out of here. What is Brown's Twitter? Can you explain it to me?
There's two types in this situation, in my opinion.
Oof.
You got the defensive Browns Twitter, which I usually would fall into, but like I told you earlier, when I see people write up stuff like this, I just think of the Mad Max gif and I go, that's bait. I'm out. But yeah, the Browns Twitter is extremely defensive about the Browns. And that's why you got people like Colin Cowherd that take shots at Baker because he knows that we're going to go after him and retweet him and quote tweet him and say, you're this and that, and you don't know what you're talking about. And then the other ones are what I call the couch GMs, and they're all trying to win Couch GM of the Year. I understand we grew up and we've dealt with just crap GMs that, in my honest opinion, we could have done Twitter polls and had better drafts than the past GMs. Understand that. We don't have that anymore. Andrew Berry is amazing at what he does, and he puts people around him that are going to help him succeed. Trust these guys. you could sit there and throw out all these numbers that Julio Jones is giving you, whatever. Landry's great for us. He's a perfect fit for us. He is a leader of this team. He does things that numbers just can't measure. We need that guy here. If you get Julio Jones, whatever, I wouldn't trade Landry for him, but we also don't really need him.
No, we're playing fantasy football at this point.
Exactly.
I love fantasy football, but now fantasy football is taking over people's minds of being able to see clearly. I understand fan comes from the word fanatic, and usually fans aren't going to see clearly. That's why we're here for the Voice of the Land. We're here to help you. We're here to bring a little sense of reason and calm to situations. Let me just tell everybody out there that are saying, whether you're saying they need to trade Jarvis Landry for Julio Jones or just trade for Julio Jones in general, if you're saying it because you're hearing that the Baltimore Ravens are the top rated pick in all the Vegas books or sports books, whatever, if you're kind of a betting person, I'm not. I shouldn't be. I don't make great picks. That's why I don't predict on the show. That's why I leave it to Nostradamus when he's here. But if you're saying it just so that it's kind of a sly move to take a guy away from an AFC North opponent and add him to your roster, okay, like I can get involved in that conversation, but again, you don't need him. So even if he goes to Baltimore, you're expecting Lamar Jackson to throw to him accurately every single time. And somehow, some way, the throwing motion and throwing accuracy of Lamar Jackson still is in question in his career, but he is the best athlete in the NFL. He is still a problem in the AFC North. Still why we have some of the better quarterbacks in the NFL all in one division, because he's still a problem. And he has playmakers that all he has to do is dump it off to some of them, and they'll go do the rest because so many guys are keying on him to go run. So we'll break down what the move, if Julio Jones goes to Baltimore, we'll talk about that moving forward. However, if you are someone that wants to trade Jarvis Landry for Julio Jones or trade Jarvis Landry in general, Pete Smith, looking at you, buddy, stop it. He is the culture starter. He is an integral piece that you need on this team, not just for what he does in the field, which is amazing and has set records for most receptions in a short amount of time in his early career. And he's that possession style receiver that's going to get you first downs on third down. He's also a locker room leader and teaching younger guys how to be leaders as well, whether vocally or by example. He does both. He's the one that started all this, whether you want to joke around about what he said on Hard Knocks or not. A lot of what he said there and what he says every single day is true. We talk about bless him all the time. What he's doing by saying bless him is showing what he can do, talking and telling the haters, look, you can say all you want. I'm going to show you who I am. And this team, my team around me, my brothers in this locker room are going to show you what we're all about. We don't need people to talk about what we're going to do or what we're not going to do. We're going to leave that all to the side. In this locker room, we're going to determine what we're going to be, how we're going to be, and how we get to the goals that we have set forth. That is the type of guy you need in your locker room.
Who did Anthony Schwartz go see right after he got drafted?
Jarvis Landry.
Watch 5 years from now, when that guy is a Pro Bowler, he's going to go back and be like, I go so much to Jarvis Landry,
And
a leader. Like Teddy Bruschi was one of the greatest linebackers ever. He wasn't physically awesome. He was a leader for that defense on that Patriots team. Like there's just, you need those kind of guys on a team. And he's also awesome at catching a ball. I don't know if anybody knew this. And
he can produce on the field and off so that there are other production levels that raise to new heights on the field, not just for himself, but for his teammates.
How many touchdowns in the playoffs did Julio have last year?
He wasn't in the playoffs.
Oh,
yeah.
Did Jarvis have one against our
he did.
Steelers?
He did.
Was it a catch and run?
Yeah. I mean, basically like
we'll just forget about that. Doesn't matter.
Slot style receiver like he is, you catching it, and then Baker talks about get it in the hands of playmaker and let him go make a play. Well, playmaker made a play in big moment, so I guess we need that guy on this team. There's other people that are saying that they're trying to argue, and I know it's bait. And I know there's a certain person that tried to bait people yesterday. I'm not doing it because he said it, but other people have tried to say it. I think they're being serious about it, determining whether Julio Jones or Jarvis Landry are better than each other at wide receiver. I would say just stop that. Julio Jones is a better wide receiver than Jarvis Landry, but Jarvis Landry is a better option for the Cleveland Browns. We don't need to keep adding these new pieces. Then we got to restart the whole build the culture thing again. That's the old Browns. We don't need to do that anymore. We have enough good players.
Chemistry. Why mess up the chemistry? That offense was prolific last year.
Chemistry is one of the most important things. There's a reason why these guys want to get together in the offseason, because they feel like their chemistry isn't where they want it to be, and yet it looks amazing last year. They want to take it to the next level in year 2. Just let it happen. Let's see what this group can do. Andrew Berry has given Kevin Stefanski more pieces to work with, more keys to the kingdom. Let's see what they can do now.
Here's my thing. In the playoff game against the Chiefs, it wasn't our offense that gave up 3rd and 14.
It wasn't
Chad Henne.
No.
Okay. And
what did they do in the offseason?
They bolstered the defense, which is exactly what we've been.
What they needed.
What
they got
needed
what
to
they
do.
needed. They don't need Julio Jones.
No.
It's not. You don't bring in one player and make it. It's not going to make a difference. It's 11 playing as one.
Yes.
I think the problem is people think of like the Cavs. When we got LeBron, the whole team was different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because LeBron carried the team.
Yes.
When LeBron goes away, the Cavs suck again.
Yep.
Okay. It's not the way the Browns work.
That's not the way football works.
Yeah, but maybe people just don't understand that.
I guess I just got to chalk it up to fans being fanatics and just let it go. I don't get involved in Browns Twitter, but I know, you're more tied in with some of those people than I am. And maybe they would help me get more followers. I don't know. But
I mean, everyone's entitled.
I'm not
to
out there for
opinion.
that.
I mean, it's all hypothetical. If we brought in Julio Jones, maybe it would bring us to the Super Bowl. No one really knows. I just trust Andrew Berry to do his job. Yes. I don't care what they do anymore. Like, I used to speculate who I wanted and what I wanted.
Yeah.
I stopped doing that. I just enjoy it.
I mean, if I'm not a fan of a move, I'll say that, but it's not, and I don't if I make one criticism, it's also not that I don't trust them. That's another thing that Browns Twitter gets into. If you say one, slightly negative thing about those guys, then they think that you don't trust them. We trust Andrew Berry to do his job, and he has done his job this offseason. We trust Kevin Stefanski and these players to do their job on the field, but they can't just talk about it or say they're about it. They got to go be about it again. It all restarts come September. It's only, May 24th, May 23rd, whatever it is today. We're still 4 months away from football. There's going to be a lot of time to talk about this.
That's why you have the Julio Jones conversation.
Oh,
There's nothing to talk about with the Browns.
If that's how you want to fill your time, that's, to each their own.
Hey, you got to create content. He did it. Hats off, Pete.
So, yeah.
You got everyone to talk about it.
Got everybody to talk about it. Dang it. I went for the bait. I tried not to go for bait anymore. Dang it.
It happens.
I just got frustrated. I got to stand up for my guy, Jarvis. Jarvis he may not be an official friend of show, but we are a friend of his on this show. So maybe at some point we'll get the reciprocation of friendship.
I can't tell you how happy I was when they traded for him.
Oh, I love them. That move was one of my favorite moves. I just knew that the guy was going to produce. I knew he was going to produce.
I watched too many receivers come in here and drop balls left and right. And this guy never, ever does it. So
yeah, didn't know he was that big of a leader, but hey, the more you bring, the more I like you. Jarvis Landry, probably my favorite player on this team right now.
He's up there. There's a lot of them. It's hard to pick. It's like your kids, man.
Yeah.
Who do you say is your favorite?
Yeah.
Because I throw Nick Chubb at you. You're like, oh,
yeah.
What about Myles Garrett? Yeah, he's pretty good. Oh, Baker Mayfield. Oh, yeah.
I love them all equally. That's
exactly.
No, we'll just scratch out the part where I said I love.
He loves whoever comes on his show more, though.
Hey, this Zoom's open. Zoom links are open. We are just about out of time, but I do want to get to this Hall of Fame because we've been talking about that for 2 weeks. So, Jay, for you, who is the one player that's not in the Hall of Fame? As we talked about this last week with Kobe Bryant being posthumously inducted and a beautiful speech given by his wife, and we still give prayers out to the Bryant family for Kobe and Gigi and all the families involved in that accident back in January of 2020. But Hall of Fame induction got us thinking, who's somebody that's not in that should be?
Well, being a Browns fan, I have to say Clay Matthews Jr. needs to be in the Hall of Fame. They ripped him off.
Yeah, they did.
But the one guy in all sports that I still cannot believe they won't let him in because baseball writers are crazy people is Pete Rose. The dude is kicked out for betting on his own team to win, not to lose, but to win. And you gave him a lifetime ban for that. I understand keeping him out for a while, but the guy leads baseball in hits. He's one of the greatest players ever. How are you just leaving him out? Like, that's so wrong. It's not that big of a deal anymore. They're going to have sports gambling almost in every stadium soon.
Yeah, and it's about to be legal in Ohio. So I knew you were going to bring up Pete Rose. That's why I wanted to ask their question. My mind, anytime Hall of Famer that's not in the Hall of Fame, it always goes to pro wrestling. So I won't bore people with that tonight. Maybe that'll be another conversation at the next.
I don't know, man. Cleveland loves them some pro wrestling here.
I do. We do love some pro wrestling.
It's hoping huge here.
Hey, they're going back on the road live, so I'm hoping one of those 25 city tour ends up here because I'll be not front and center because I don't got that.
Now I got to know who it is.
Well,
can't leave me hanging like this.
Well, for me right now, it's kind of weird. Like it's The Rock for me. I don't understand if they don't want to do it because of his schedule or, possibly the fact that there's the door open for one more, there's always like people are always chanting one more match. Well, now that, that Samoan bloodline is kind of the main storylines.
I think we agree though. He's going to get in.
He's going to get in. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. And of course, John Cena, he'll be in, but I think they'll hold him out and give him enough time to try to break Ric Flair. At this point, he's tied with him. If you didn't do it already, I don't know if you should, but it's like more so my question about pro wrestlers that aren't in the Hall of Fame that probably should be after you see some that kind of get in the first year after they're kind of gone, like Kane just basically retired and he got right into the Hall of Fame. And he's been in there. He's been there for a long time. The Rock was there for a long time. Cena was there for a long time. Like when these guys aren't there, but they're still kind of hired by WWE. Like I always wonder, like, what's the storyline with that? Like where are they taking this? Because Vince always knows how to get your money.
Yeah, that's true.
Vince always knows how to get your money.
He's a pretty smart businessman.
He is
doing all right for himself.
He is. You mentioned how Pete Rose is the best
all-time in hits.
All-time in hits. I asked you guys beforehand. There's only two major league players in baseball history that have over 4,000 hits. The top two. Pete Rose is number one. We already said. I gave you guys the entire show to think about it and a couple extra moments, but it's our show, so we can do what we want. Do you guys have an idea who that might be?
I got to guess.
Who is it?
Ted Williams?
Not Ted Williams. Peter?
I have no idea.
This one kind of surprised me, but it surprised me and didn't at the same time. You got one more guess?
What era? Just give me the decade.
I don't
roughly.
Old school. I don't know the years exactly. Or I don't know. I can't guess the years that they were in. I think that's like earlier. I don't know.
Baseball. Who is it?
Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb.
Yeah. Pete Rose got over 4,200 hits.
Is Ty Cobb in the Hall of Fame? Because if he's in the Hall of Fame, that dude is a real piece of trash in real life. So how is Pete Rose not there?
Whoa. That's the way.
Like you Google the background on Ty Cobb.
Yeah.
Not good.
Well,
maybe it was Cy Young. One of those two were pretty bad people.
Well, on that note, it is time to end the show. We'll talk more about Hall of Famers that aren't in, or kind of all those kind of conversations and other philosophical conversations like the money issue in baseball or whatever Peter may bring up to Paulus or myself or our guest host. We always somehow get off track, but it's okay because that is what the Voiceland is all about. But that's going to wrap it up for this edition on this Sunday evening for the Voiceland on the Big Play Network. Thank you to everybody that tuned in live. If you're tuning in throughout the week and tuning into the audio on Google, Spotify, or Apple, for our special guest host. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so
It
much.
was a blast.
Absolutely. Follow him at Always Positive J. That is J Banky, APJ. And for our producer extraordinaire, Peter Tillip, I'm Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you sports fans out there, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We love you all. 3000. Until next week, I snap this show away.